MCP servers are catching fire. If you're unfamiliar with the concept, MCP is short for Model Context Protocol, and all they are AI plugins. They are a way of AI platforms to communicate with different software. So you can have an AI MCP server set up for different parts of your tech stack. You may have an MCP server for Airtable. You may have an MCP server for N8N. You may have an MCP server for Supabase. And by these servers that are created and then connections to this central network, that MCP network, all these platforms as a result are able to uh, be linked together within your tech stack and system. And so it actually makes it a lot easier to put together workflows, to streamline your processes. And we now even have MCP servers for your automation platforms. Like there's an N8N MCP server, make.com has an MCP server. And so in this video, what I want to do is I want to show the top ways of connecting different MCP servers such that you can provide the AI that you're using with the tools in order to communicate with other software in your tech stack. So if that sounds good to you, make sure to hit the subscribe button, turn your notifications on, and let's get into it. So it's interesting. I was just restarting my computer and I looked out. I already had Appify up, and I noticed Appify just this week has launched a new feature, which is an Appify MCP server. And each of these platforms that you're going to, like these modern platforms, you'll see one after the next just spinning up these MCP servers. And so by Appify having an MCP server now, you see this diagram here where you see the MCP clients, which right now those include Claude, Cursor, ChatGPT, and then Make and N8N are also MCP clients now. And then they connect to an MCP network. And now this Appify MCP server that's been created, that connects to that network, which connects to the client. And so as a result of the Appify MCP server that's now been created, you're then able to then go ahead and do these different functions and actions, whether it's scrape information off of social media or contact enrichment. And the important piece to understand about this is that client server connection, because that connection right there, typically, let's say you were working with make.com, you might have that connection being done through Make. But by now having the MCP server, maybe you still have a Make connection as a part of your workflow, but then the connection to Appify may be through the MCP. And so it can get nuanced, but as we go along in this video, you'll be able to understand kind of the role that it plays and why it's going to only become more important as we go further down the line. And the MCP concept was developed by Anthropic, which is a company that owns Claude. And so it's their development, and it's now becoming a standard across the board. OpenAI is announced that they're adopting it as well. So even competing AI companies. And so the two ways that I've found to be the easiest to add these MCP servers to your AI are through a platform called Docker. Docker is a tool that will enable you to run applications in a closed environment. It's like a container for an app. Everything that you need to run an app, all the dependencies, all the environment you need, it can all be contained in this tool called Docker. And so you're going to download Docker to your desktop, depending on the kind of desktop you have, Apple, Windows, or Linux. And then we're going to create, or rather load, an extension for MCP via Docker. And that's what we're going to start with. So if you download Docker, and I already have it on my computer, this is what you're going to come into. And you'll see I already have a couple of MCP clients that are hooked up here. I have YouTube transcripts, MCP, Firecrawl, GitHub, Stripe. And so when you first come onto Docker, you're not going to see the MCP toolkit. You're going to go to extensions. You're going to click on manage, and then you can browse. And then from there, you can choose the MCP toolkit, the Docker MCP toolkit. And so then once that is installed, you'll then see all the different MCP servers that you can connect to within Docker. And so I just chose a couple here that I believe were relevant to the work that I do. And from there, you're actually going to go to the MCP clients tab, and you're going to connect to Claude desktop. So Claude and Cursor, which those are the platforms that I personally use. I've done it with Cursor in the past. And if you look at the previous video that I've done on MCPs some months back, you'll see how I set up a connection to Cursor. But now it's even a little bit more streamlined in order to set up these MCP connections. And I recently did it with Claude, and Claude really having that MCP connection turns it into a true agent, because with Claude, it's able to use these different tools in order to accomplish a task for you. And so you're going to connect it to Claude. And then if you go to the search and tools and click on that, you'll see MCP Docker, and you'll see to the right of it a number. And that number is the number of tools that it's able to draw from. So if you click on it, click on that MCP title, you'll see all the tools that I currently have enabled through Docker. And so you'll see like this first, I believe it's 18, is from Firecrawl. And then here are tools from Stripe. And then here are tools from GitHub. And then you have these different tools that you can call on when you're prompting the LLM. So I can now call in GitHub repositories so that it can work, so that Claude can work with my code. I can call in data or information from my Stripe if I prompt for it to list out the expenses that I had last month. I can prompt for it to scrape different websites using Firecrawl. So that's what the MCP connections can do. And even just by simply prompting a general prompt, it'll now choose which tools to use in order to complete the job. And so I will do an example, but I just wanted to explain that. And over here, in order to actually make those connections happen, so as I mentioned, you're going to click on connect on Claude desktop, because that will in the beginning say connect. And then you're going to turn on these MCP servers. So let's take, for example, Firecrawl. If you click on Firecrawl, you'll see that you have these 8 tools here that you can access. And then the configuration here is where you're going to need to put in your API key for Firecrawl. So so you're going to need a Firecrawl account in order to do this. And then in the dashboard, you'll find where your API key is. And from there, you can put in that API. You can put in that API key to connect the server. And then once you put in that API key, you can just toggle it on, and that'll be connected. And so that's it. And so Claude already has an integrated connection to Google Drive, to Gmail, basically the Google Suite. And then it already also has web search. It uses the I believe it's called Firebrave browser in order to do search. Then now you're able to also have these other toolings to integrate with. All right, so we're going to do an example here. So I go to Docker and I show the different MCPs here. So Stripe, GitHub, Firecrawl, YouTube. So let's say I were to go to my GitHub account and just look at my different repositories. So if I were to, let's say, I look through the different GitHub repos. So let's take something like Clear Study Mod. So this is the repo for a project that the interns at our company have done quite a lot of work on and are continuing to improve. So let's say we were to call this repo in to Claude. So clear-study-mod. We could say something in Claude like, please call in the clear study mod repo, or please pull in the clear study mod repo and provide a brief summary as to what the project does. So if we call that in, it'll literally search for the repository, and it's not asking me to approve it because I had already pulled in a repo earlier on, but it's now like it actually found the repo. Now let me look at the first result, which appears to be in the main repository, and get more details. So it pulled it in, it read the project, and then now it's giving a brief summary of it. Clear Study Mod is a modern study companion application designed to help students effectively manage their lecture recordings. The project serves as a comprehensive solution for recording, transcribing, and organizing educational content. So it gives you all the information about the app, and then it shows you even like where it's deployed, which is probably in the README. So, but now let's say, there are some bugs on the app or the improvements that need to be made. Based on what you analyze with the repo, are there any bugs or areas that can be optimized to make the app, say, run more smoothly? And let's see what it says. So it's actually getting the context, and then it can now analyze, it can now audit your code base. And so you can see how if you're connecting to, in this case, GitHub, but you could be connected to GitHub, you could be connected to Stripe, you could be connecting to any platform that has an MCP server. If QuickBooks has an MCP server or anywhere, you're not able to communicate with all these different tools straight from Claude, which in this case is kind of like your command center, but you can also do so from Cursor, or you can do so from ChatGPT. And then you can also build out different workflows where rather than having to have as extensive a make or N8N workflow, you can use MCP as a part of it. And it's kind of like a modular in that sense. So it analyzed the code based on my comprehensive analysis of the Clear Study Mod repository. I've identified several bugs and optimization opportunities. Here's my assessment. The app uses a hard-coded test user. So I now provided all this information on the app and areas that it can be improved. So that was just to show an example of that MCP setup, and it used Docker. So again, just to recap, download Docker, open it up, add MCP toolkit through the extension, and then connect Claude, check that Claude actually had it added, and then add the MCP servers. And so it makes it pretty straightforward. I tried to do it with Notion, and I was having some trouble with it when it came to Notion, but everything else has worked so far for me. Now, the other way I want to show is using, it's called Composio.dev. And this is what I actually mentioned in previous MCP video that I did. And so Composio MCP. And so basically these MCP, they're kind of like MCP providers, if you will. They house many MCP servers in one. So it makes it easy. You can kind of centralize them, if you will. So with the Composio MCP, I currently have Notion and Google Sheets connected. I have Notion connected to my Cursor, but the Google Sheets is connected to Claude. And so with here, what you would do, like let's say you wanted to do Slack, you could click on create server. And you know what? I'm going to do one that is just going to make sense for me. So let's see. Which one can we do? Let's see. We could do Google Meet. So let's Google Meet might not make sense. Retell is actually a good one. So let's do Retell. So Retell AI, we click create server, next, and then all you have to do is add in your API key. So if I go to my Retell account, log in, copy that API key. So now these are the different actions that can be taken. Buy a new phone number, bind agents, create a new outbound phone number. Okay, so that's getting access to the numbers, delete phone number, list numbers, retrieve call details, retrieve details. So it sounds like what the actions you can take with the MCP server for Retell is getting set up with numbers and getting information from the calls that occur. So if I were to just, let's say, click all of these on, then I can then go ahead and create a server. And then now we have this command here, which you can copy it for the client that you want to use. In this case, we're going with Claude. If you copy that and then go back to Claude, so first of all, what you could do, if let's say you were typing the command to Claude will just give you the instructions. But what the actual instructions will be to go to your terminal on your computer. So you type in terminal, and then within the terminal, all you're going to do is just paste that command in, and it'll literally create the connection for you. So now it has to quit Claude for a second, and then we're gonna go back to it. And when you go back to it, you see here, I want to say is this one over here. You see Retell AI. So now it has access to all of these tools with Retell. So now with Retell connected, I could prompt and take one of the actions that would use the tools that you have access to in Retell. I imagine over time, there'll be, right now it's 13 tools. Over time, there'll be more and more tools. And then you're able to now use these different tools from these different software in conjunction with each other. And so that's what this is good for. So Docker and Composio, those are the two platforms that I look at as just the top platforms for MCP providers and how you can get access to hundreds of these MCP servers through those two platforms. And this is why Claude is an agent now, because it's able to call these different tools while you're getting your work done. And so let me know what you thought about this video and the breakdown of MCP. It's only going to continue to grow. It's something that's been trending for a while now. And I look forward to more MCP servers and tools that you have access to, because from how I see it, MCPs will make it such that you may not even necessarily need a make.com or Zapier for the automated workflows. But if those companies are, doing their thing, then it'll, at the very least be a great enhancer to those workflows. So that's it for now. I will see you next time.